shots broke out, and I think there was people that actually thought it was possibly fireworks, but I seen the gun smoke, and obviously there was a person about 15 foot behind me that was hit. So I think severely wounded at the least, but nonetheless, the crowd stayed pretty calm for the most part. And but it sounded like there was 6, 7 shots to start with, and then it seemed like there was a little pause, and then we heard a different caliber gun fired, which I assume is probably the Secret Service. But then I thought I heard another couple of rounds come off, but it felt like it was behind me. But it could have been the echo.
Did you hear did President Trump say anything?
No, he was just giving the typical rally speech that he typically does everywhere, and trying to encourage voters to get out and vote and talking about his plan for America.
But as the shots rang out, did he cry out? Did someone tell him to get down, or was that instinctive?
Yeah, we heard that. We heard everybody say, get down, but I think he was already going down. That's when everybody thought at first maybe he had been hit more severely than he was. I mean, it's already severe. And let's face it, it hit his ear. It could have been a little bit closer. It could have been disastrous. But when he went down to the ground, then he got up, he put his fist up in the air or his hand up in the air. So we knew he was okay.
There are presumably, at least it appears to be, a lot of people in that crowd. By now you have heard that one spectator was killed and others critically wounded. Has it settled in of how close a brush everybody in that arena or setting came tonight?
Yeah, there was a lot. It was interesting listening to the people as they departed the scene, and what was going through my mind, and of course being a little older than many of those that were there, but I was recalling the Kennedy assassinations and some of the other attempts that were made during my lifetime, and I was recalling those and thinking about those, and then moving forward to where we're at today, and we still have a problem with this. So it's shocking, but most people are pretty upset. There's no question about it.
Understandably. Ambassador, thank you so much for taking the time being with us. We're glad you and yours are safe after this tonight. Retired ATF Special Agent Jim Cavanaugh is with me. By now, as you know, we've been reporting that the shooter in this case is deceased, presumably shot by law enforcement. I think the next question will be, is this a lone operator, the proverbial lone wolf, or is this part of some kind of conspiracy? Those are two different things. How will they begin to get, at least put the dots together?
Yeah, well, let's start with the deceased shooter, Lester, and identify him, and then, sweep his personal devices, phone, computer, etc., for, associates, Confederates, and start interviewing around the circle around him. You've dug out a lot from the reporters and the witnesses since we last talked, and it appears that maybe the shooter. It seemed like to me, watching the video closely, that the first shot or two is where the President Trump reacts. Hey,
Jim, let me just stop you for a second. I just received a new piece of information that I want to get your thoughts on. We're now, from a confirmed source, that the shooter was actually firing from outside the perimeter. That changes a lot in terms of the security posture at these things, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, but what's surprising to me is that a shooter could get in an elevated position at any kind of a Secret Service event, because the first thing that the service does is they get all the elevated positions, and they put their sniper teams up there and lookouts with binoculars and rifles. So it does seem from the witnesses that this was a distant shot now, that the reason the shot wasn't as loud, it was further off in the distance. And it looked like, watching the video, Lester, closely, that when the president turned his head to the right, the first shot or second shot, the first pop or two, is when he grabs his right ear. And then he, on his own volition, goes down, squats down. Now, he doesn't fall down, he just squats down. But you can see at that same moment that the spectators behind him are also hunching down as a normal reaction to gunfire. And then there's more rounds right after that. There's maybe another 5 rounds. And Dasha Burns had a witness that she just interviewed, and he talked about he counted 7 rounds. and that was close. I don't know can't tell the exact number. I have to listen to that audio very, very closely. But I mean that sort of jives with what the witness said. So it looks like we had an assassin with a rifle outside the security perimeter. That's why you had mentioned earlier, magnetometers. Well, if you never breached the security perimeter, nobody checks you. And the first shot or second might have been the one intended to kill the former president, but it grazed his right ear.
Yeah, Jim, let me bring back, if I
can,
can, Evie Pomporis, a former secret